welcome to On Deck with Mercury. I'm Mercury Payton, town manager here in Vienna. Glad that you can join us for this edition. And you may think that is the busy season for public works is always in the wintertime with the snow and leaf collection that happens in the winter. But the fact is that spring and summer are equally as busy, maybe even more busy, with the public works crews focusing a lot on infrastructure projects, some of what you see when you're driving down Maple Avenue and some that you don't. But joining me here at Northside Property Yard, I have two deputy directors of public works. The first one is Alan Chen to my right here. He's the deputy director of engineering. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
I'm glad you could be here. And the other deputy director of public works is Marvin Lawrence.
Yes.
All right. And operations.
Operations, yes it is.
So maybe talk a little bit about the distinction between the engineering side and the operations side real quick.
Okay, so I guess I can get started here. Operations is located here at Northside Property Yard.
Right here.
Exactly,
okay.
Where we're filming today. And engineering is located at Town Hall. Engineering tends to be more focused on improvement projects, whereas operations is more, as the name suggests, day-to-day operations and more maintenance and maintaining our infrastructure within the town.
Got it. Excellent, excellent. And so, we don't have to really travel too far to see you all in action. I mean, I drive down Maple Avenue, Nutley, wherever, and I always see projects going on. And there's sidewalk projects, road maintenance, water and sewer replacements. The list goes on and on. How do you do it, Marvin? How do you maintain all of these different projects, even like sanitation pickup? All of these things work like clockwork and are seamless. How do you make it happen?
Well, I can tell you it's not easy. It takes a coordinated effort between operations and engineering. Most of the time, everything comes out of here of Northside Property Yard. That includes street maintenance, sanitation, water and sewer, general maintenance, as well as fleet maintenance. Sometimes people forget about that, but we have a huge fleet maintenance crew that's head up by Adam Lehman, our superintendent. We have a coordinated effort with Alan Chen and his group who works out of Town Hall, like you mentioned earlier.
Well, fantastic. And speaking of priorities with all these projects, a few years back, the council approved the plan that was recommended by Public Works. I think it's the Pavement Condition Index, a PCI. I think is that what it's called?
That's correct.
You guys teach me well. Okay, all right. And so that determines the conditions of the roads we have in town. And so that standard, which is an objective standard, tell us a little bit about the standard and how we maintain those roads to make sure that they're up to our expectations.
Absolutely. I can provide a little more context about our PCI, or Pavement Condition Index. So every year we have a contractor, Transmap, who essentially they drive around with a car and with a camera attached to it, and they analyze every bit of our roadway, and they analyze it and produce a Pavement Condition Index score for every street.
Every street.
Every street. And this basically is an indication of the structural integrity and just overall functional condition of the street. And so prioritization for our street repair is based off of this PCI score and just whether or not there have been other projects in the area, like a water main repair, and just in general available funding. So, I do have some good news. The PCI index is 0 to 100, with 0 being a completely failed road and 100 being a brand new road. And in the last few years, because of street maintenance being prioritized, and also some of this available federal funding that we've gotten from grants, the PCI score has increased from 57 in 2021, which indicates about poor to fair condition, to 75 in 2024. Wow. Which would be a satisfactory condition. So there's definitely been a lot of improvement. And additionally, operations assist as well. Our street maintenance crew, they assist with temporary and permanent patches, particularly after water main breaks. And then also, I think another part of this improvement is working with Washington Gas and other utilities to basically just make sure that they do a good job repairing the street after they're done with their projects within town.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. So, when we look at the roads and the conditions of them, so for example, if we have a harsh winter and there are maybe more deterioration because of the snow and ice and what it does, and then the salt and what it does to the roads and whatever. So is it true to think that if our roads are in better conditions before the harsh weather, that those roads can withstand that a little bit better. And if the roads are in worse condition, they deteriorate quicker. Is that how it works? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Absolutely. I think you're 100% correct. I think when there's initial cracking of the road, during the winter, there's a freeze-thaw cycle,
Right.
and any water that infiltrates underneath the surface of the asphalt will expand, contract, and then and the salt only exacerbates the issue. So you will notice after a harsh winter that our roads will deteriorate significantly. Well, there's not much we can do about the weather per se.
Right.
I do think one thing that we're looking at is more preventative maintenance,
Sure.
such as slurry sealing.
Sure.
So, it typically is our priority to prioritize the work on the worst streets that we have,
Sure.
which just naturally makes sense. But in some ways, it is a little bit more cost effective to just do some preventative slurry sealing towards some of our roads that haven't quite deteriorated as bad. And so that's one thing that we're looking at to try to increase our PCI and just in general the roadways in the town of Vienna.
And sure, as I understand the slurry seal, so we may have a road that's made grade at 85 or 90 or whatever, really high. There may be like a small crack in it. And so what I think I understand is that that when the fall and winter weather hits and when it rains and snows, and it's icy and it gets into that crack, it would make it expand. And I think the slurry seal it's like a substance that you put over top of that small crack so that it would seal it so that there won't be an opportunity for precipitation or ice, whatever, to get in there. Is that what the slurry seal?
Precisely. And so it ends up being a balance of, trying to do preventative maintenance, while at the same time, if there is a severely deteriorated road that just had a recent water main break, that is something we probably would prioritize. So it's kind of a balance.
Sure. And then we talk about like the water breaks, so you may have that happen. And then, so when you go and do that repair, do you go and repair the pavement on the road there, or do you wait until it's a time for it to be repaired in the sequence?
So if there's an immediate water main break, our streets maintenance crew will come in and do a temporary patch, and then eventually we'll do the mill and overlay and do a complete street restoration.
Wow. Now, speaking of streets, people driving the streets, and a lot of times they're thinking about the light synchronization and all that. So talk a little bit about how that project is coming along, people being able to drive down Maple Avenue. So maybe talk about what they experience now, and then what they will experience when it's fully installed.
Well, I'm sure as most residents know, the traffic along our two major corridors, which are Maple Avenue and Nutley Street, it can be pretty rough sometimes, and I think that is one of our priorities. And currently, we have a major project that is concluding for the signal upgrades at those two corridors, and that's being led by our transportation engineer, Andrew Jinks, and I believe this project should conclude sometime in the fall of this year. So this has been kind of a pretty long, year-long effort that's finally reaching its conclusion, and I think what's remaining are two major rebuilds at the intersections of Nutley and Tapawingo and Fallen and Maple. And we're very excited about this project as well. I think there's a number of benefits. Essentially, what this project will allow us to do is we're upgrading the equipment at these intersections to allow just one centralized location to gather all the data in real time. It'll allow kind of communication between these signals. This project will also automatically provide recommendations for the town to adjust the signal timings and kind of analyze performance in real time. And so I think the end result of this is, so traffic engineers, they like to use a term called arrival on green.
Arrival on green.
Arrival on green.
That sounds like what you want to do.
Yeah, and it's
I don't want to arrive on red.
Yeah.
I want to arrive on green.
And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the percentage of vehicles that essentially pass through an intersection signal while it's green without having to stop. And so the end metric of this project will be that the arrival on green should increase dramatically with the conclusion of this project. And I also think one small benefit too of this signal upgrade project is that it should improve pedestrian safety at the Maple and Fallen intersection near the country club for pedestrians in that area too.
Wow. So right now, when I arrive on green, at a standstill sometimes. So will this arrival on green, the flow will just keep going through, or?
So if you arrive on green and you stop at the intersection because the traffic's backed up and you're not trying to block the box, that would not be considered arrival on green in that percentage.
Okay. All right. Well, I just thought I'd ask. Also we have a lot of water main replacement projects in the summer. Talk a little bit about how those are prioritized. Is the summertime a better time to do those replacements than the wintertime? Talk about maybe the impact, the effect that residents will realize with a new water line replacement.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our water and sewer capital projects manager, Frank Torrey, he essentially oversees all the water main replacements on top of also managing the projects. And there's a number of factors to consider when prioritizing these water main projects. I think the number one thing we look at is the number of water main breaks. How many times the water and sewer crew have to go out there and perform emergency repairs, which is a pretty good indication of the pipe condition. Other things we look at is kind of the pipe material, the year it was installed. We have a lot of very old aging infrastructure in the town, a lot of cast iron pipes installed in the 1950s and 60s that are reaching the end of their lifespan. And I think the last thing we look at is the number of service connections, and which indicate how many residents would be affected by the water, by that, who are customers of that water distribution pipe, and how many would benefit from the project. And so I think one thing that we look at too is also the condition of the road, because we want to minimize the construction impact for these residents. And also we don't want to, fix the water main on a brand new street. And so I think that's probably the main thing we look at when we choose which water main projects to replace, and hopefully that results in fewer disruptions for the residents.
Sure. And I think that most residents realize continuous water service. That probably 99% of our residents turn on the water happens, and they don't really think about it. And so there may be some roads that, or some streets that have maybe a higher number than usual of, water main breaks. And so those are probably the ones that we attack first. And so we could solve that so that on a continuous basis, most of our residents have water to drink and use.
Exactly, and I think that's one consideration. I think the other really is just the condition of the roads, like I said, just so that we're not going back in there and repaving a road that was just paved a year ago, because that really is one of the major cost considerations. So it's a balance of trying to focus on our needs as well as trying to maintain cost effectiveness.
Sure. And speaking of continuous water service, I know that we have water main breaks over the past several months. Particularly, I know we had a harsh winter somewhat. And so talk a little bit about how the weather impacts or doesn't impact, water main breaks, and what goes into making those repairs happen in a quick manner.
Well, absolutely. So the weather impacts these greatly. The expansion and the contraction of the pipes, just as Alan mentioned a bit ago, the aging infrastructure of that causes these water mains to break. I mean, our guys are out there tirelessly throughout, 12 hours, 24 hours, sometimes on holidays, sometimes on weekends, they're away from their family, fixing these water main breaks. They have to, it's a very technical and intensive process of taking a sounder and a locator to go out there and detect exactly where this water main break is. They then excavate for that water main break and they repair it. But these guys, they're led by Emily Goodman, the water and sewer superintendent, and also Gilbert Robinson, the water operations supervisor. And they're tenured people. They've been here with the town for a while, so they're very aware of the town, and they do a great job.
Fantastic. And so how do you know that there is a water main break? Is it that I turn on my water, nothing comes out, or is it that I'm driving down the road and I see water coming out of the ground? How do I know? How do you all know that there's a water main break? How do you know that?
Well, actually, the most way that we kind of get this response is we get a call from a resident. A resident says, hey, I've noticed the water bubbling up in the street. So when they notice that, they call police dispatch, and then we come right out. But also, just as you mentioned, there is some indicators you can turn on the water is like, hey, there's no water pressure. That's a pretty good indication that there's a water main break in the street happening.
Sure. Now, when that happens, talk a little bit about notification. How do you go about letting the residents know that you're working on a water main break, or even like businesses, like if that happens, tell us, maybe a little bit about that process.
Well, one of the things we do, and we've really placed emphasis on this recently, is knocking on the doors and giving everyone a little bit of time to use it. It's in the evening, they're cooking dinner, they could be getting ready to take a shower, and it's like, hey, we're gonna give you 30 minutes, but we gotta shut the water off. And really, we try to shut it off because it's a safety concern. If you leave water on, it could start to undermine the road, and then cars can't get past. But we try to notify, give them 30 minutes and say, hey, we're gonna shut it off. Maybe out for 6 hours. We try to be a little longer just because we want to make sure we can get it back on for them. Sure. And then we do our thing. We do what we do, and we get that water on.
I'm glad you said what you said, because when I think of the term water main break, I think it's completely out, right? So, water main break on whatever block. And so you're saying that there's a water main break, but there's still water flowing through.
There's still water flowing.
And you're giving people a heads up to say, okay, there's a water main break here. We're going to repair this. You'll be able to use your water for an hour or two more, and then we're going to get into it, and it's going to be off.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And what it is really is just like a loss of pressure. The pressure's not as high as it was, but they can still use the water, just as long as there's no safety concerns with the undermining of the streets.
Talk a little bit about the sewer inspections and repair and maintenance, like that side of the equation. Talk a little bit about how all that works.
Well, absolutely. I know we're actually working in a coordinated effort with the engineering team and also Fairfax County on the rehabilitation of the town's trunk sewers right outside of the Wolf Trap area. So that's one of the main things, which is sewer relining. Some of the things we do with the operations is CCTV inspection, and then also going in and using the jetter to clean out the roots. There's a lot of roots in town. They can clog up the pipes, and if we don't go in there and do this routine maintenance, that can cause sewer backups. The CCTV cleaning is actually a quite interesting thing. It takes a camera, a little rover down there, and then inspects the pipe, inspects the condition of the pipe, and then we're able to say, hey, it's time to make repairs, or it's time to get our capital projects manager, Frank Torre, to reline the sewer.
That's fantastic. When I think about water and sewer, and the time I've been here since 2011, we've not had anything significant or catastrophic. I think of some localities, I can name some here, but I won't do that, but across the country in the Midwest and different places where they've had some significant issues. So maybe talk just a little bit about what is the secret that Vienna has, that we have safe water, continuous operation of water, safe sewage operations, without much fanfare. It's kind of under the radar, which is where we want to be. We don't want to be on the front page. So how does all that happen efficiently, so that we don't have some of the experiences we see across the country sometimes?
Well, really, it's the staff. That's who does it all. They have put in so many routine programs to be able to identify and go in and conduct this type of maintenance. Elbashir Burhas, he just came aboard as the sewer supervisor about 2 to 3 years ago. He's in place some great programs for the sewer TV and inspection, and then also the water operations supervisor, Gilbert Robinson. He does the same thing with the water, and also Emily as she heads that up. But the staff, they work tirelessly, like I said, with those water main breaks. They go out, they do service of the fire hydrants to make sure those are working properly. They go out and they do valve exercising. So when we do have these water main breaks, they can shut down the main properly. So it's just tireless effort from staff, coordinating with the engineering team to make sure we're replacing and up to date with our replacement schedule with the CIP.
That's fantastic. And you also have sidewalk projects as well. I know you have the Robinson Family Trust sidewalks that just have been completed, but you also have other sidewalk projects as well. Talk a little bit about how that's coming along.
So as you mentioned, the Robinson Trust project, for those who don't know, this was a gift from the Maud Robinson Trust of over $7 million, which concluded recently in 2024 and involved the installation of about 3.5 miles of sidewalk. And this was an incredible gift, an incredible opportunity for the town. And I think, you've seen sidewalk projects everywhere throughout town. And I think the feedback from residents has been overwhelmingly positive, including from many who were initially, skeptical for many reasons regarding these sidewalks. And with some of these ARPA funds too, we're going to try to continue to implement these sidewalk projects and continue to install curb and gutter and storm drain infrastructure as well.
And speaking of storm drain and stormwater projects, talk a little bit about the impact and the importance of the stormwater side of what we do.
Okay, yeah, so, my previous position was a water resources engineer. So stormwater is something I think that is, very important to me. And so the town of Vienna right now, we have numerous stormwater projects, and I think one that I would like to point out is the Bear Branch stream restoration at Southside Park. So if anyone's driven near Ross Drive or Cottage Drive as well, and notice the construction there, that's the stream restoration project. And essentially we're restoring 1,200 linear feet of stream from the I-66 interchange all the way up to Cottage Drive. And essentially what we're trying to do is reinforce a stream bank and to prevent sedimentation from accumulating downstream. So we're trying to improve the water quality as well as, prevent some of the erosion that's affecting residents' property, and just in general, use some of this grant money from the state to essentially beautify our natural habitat as well.
That's wonderful. And so you also respond to emergencies. We had a storm roll through here just a few minutes ago. Talk a little bit about Public Works and its role when it comes to high winds and power outages and your coordination maybe with Dominion Energy. Talk a little bit about how you make the lives of residents, better by restoring power or working with Dominion Energy to make those things happen. So talk a little bit about how you respond to the weather.
Well, it starts with preparation. Some of the things we do is we have routine generator checks to make sure our central operation space, which is here at Northside, is adequate during these emergency conditions. A lot of the times we get hit with a lot of down tree calls. Right. So we dispatch, and this is head up by Jeff Tefano and then general maintenance and the street maintenance crew. But they go out there and they try to do what they can. But if it's too intensive of a tree, it's too large of a tree, we then call our partners over at Parks and Recs to come over and kind of aid us out with that, with a little bit of help. But we do also coordinate with Dominion Energy. We have them on speed dial to make sure that, power is restored to the residents.
That is fantastic. And so when it comes to all of these projects, I know that you all work together as a team. So maybe talk a little bit about how there's overlap with your responsibilities and roles and how you coordinate to make sure all this comes together.
Okay, I think I can start with that. I think the various different projects that we have, it does vary and there is a little bit of overlap. I would say engineering tends to be a replacement or a permanent improvement, whereas operations is more involved in the day-to-day and the and more of the maintenance of our existing infrastructure. But there's definitely a lot of coordination. I would say particularly on the water and sewer side. We need their feedback on which mains to replace, which sewer lines that need to be relined. We basically rely on their expertise. And I've worked at the property yard for the past 3 years, and it's honestly been extremely impressive working with our operations staff. I think, it's almost a cliche, but it really is the teamwork that goes on here that drives everything. Sure. For example, when we had an emergency culvert collapse on Lawyers and Blair, I think this was a good example. Streets maintenance goes out there, they flag and redirect traffic. We work with the on-call contractor to get an estimate for the repair. This El Bashir and the sewer crew go out there and TV the line to check on the damage. It's a very coordinated effort, I would say, between engineering and operations that, to be honest, I haven't really seen in other jurisdictions that I've worked at. So, it really depends on the work, but I think overall we try our best. We have a problem and we're trying to get it solved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with everything he said, but he kind of left out that we're actually on the same basketball team, so that's why we work.
Oh, there it is. That's right.
That's actually why. But yes,
You're synced up.
We're in
synced
there.
up. You're synced up. So you're both deputies. So who's the senior? Who's the senior deputy? Who was hired first? About how many days?
Alan, you were probably about 2 months before.
Oh, you were hired before me.
No, I didn't.
Oh, but as deputy.
No, as deputy.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm younger though, right?
Yeah, by like 6 months.
I'm sure y'all will figure that out. Any thing you want to add? Any community events coming up as we wrap up?
Oh, I mean, just one of the things I did want to add. We had a new director come in about 1.5 years ago, and he's really taken the helm at this. His name is Brad Bear. He's the director of Public Works. I mean, he's one of the reasons why there's 2 deputies here,
right.
And we're able to focus in on a lot of things that need to be done. But he's done an amazing job as the director of Public Works, and yeah, we really appreciate him. It's changed the scale of Public Works.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before we go to, I just want to highlight some of the other events that are coming up. One would be the quarterly recycling day on Saturday, September 6th, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the property yard, and all residents are welcome to bring their scrap metal, automotive waste, electronics, and I think this is part of our push at DPW to be more sustainable. I think you can see this in some of our other efforts with the electric vehicles outside, and we're also trying to implement a permanent drop-off solution sometime in the fall as well. So I think that's probably what I'd like to highlight, and this was after I would say a successful pilot program at the farmers market.
Got it. And do you think that you all will have a blurb in the newsletter or something coming up in August that will highlight that? Is possible? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. Well, residents can look forward to that. Well, thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules to sit down and talk a little bit about Public Works. It's a big operation. It's the biggest department in the town. And it impacts the residents' lives every single day, even if they don't think about it. So really appreciate all your help and leadership.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for spending time with us with On Deck with Mercury, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your summer, and we'll see you next time.